Ladies and gentlemen, we are joined today by a former 7-time NWA World Tag Team Champion, Wildcat Chris Harris. Chris, thank you so much for joining us, man. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me.
Well, perfect. And I want to jump right into the big stuff that's going on right now. We've seen the return of the Wildcat to Impact Wrestling. How did all this come about? Whose idea was it to have you return to Impact for James Storm's 1000th match?
Well, the thousand match was coming up, and I got the call, and they said, "You want to come in for it?" And I said, "Great," and was on the phone with Storm right after that, and just putting some stuff together. But yeah, we were really excited about it.
And from a personal standpoint, how great is it to be back reunited with Storm on air again in Impact?
Oh, it was great, man, and the feedback I got was even better. I mean, just positive feedback after seeing the two of us back on screen again.
Yeah, it was fantastic, and it really brought me back to a time when I was really invested with Impact. I loved watching you guys as a tag team. And the big question I have right now, the last couple of weeks we've been seeing Violent by Design. They've been causing a lot of problems for you guys. Is there a chance that we might get to see a reunion of America's Most Wanted inside of an Impact Wrestling ring?
I don't know what direction we're headed, but I've learned in the wrestling business, you never say never.
Oh, absolutely. Well, as the fan in me is just screaming, please make it happen. I'd love to see you guys in there one more time. I think I speak for fans all over the world when I say that. Mike, I want to throw it over to you. Do you have any questions you want to start off with?
Well, before we get into more of the what we hope and wish would happen, let's talk about what has been happening. Chris, what have you been doing since the last time we saw you in TNA? I know you've been busy teaching and stuff like that, but what's a regular day in the life of Chris Harris?
Yeah, I mean, I was hitting the indie circuit for a while, but just gradually, less and less of that getting in the ring. It just catches up with you after a while. So. I started doing more conventions and appearances like that. And then, I've been helping out with the promotion I started with here in Cincinnati. I've been helping out with training some of the young guys. So I'm really looking forward to that. And, it's just a whole different kind of satisfaction to see them improve and, see them get their highlights. So I'm really having a good time with that.
That's awesome. And I hear Cincinnati as a massive Bengals fan. I'm happy to hear that as well. I might be the only one in Canada, but so if we could, Chris, can we go back in time a little bit here? And I can actually see right over your shoulder there's a picture of yourself and it looks like Bob Ryder there. And Bob is somebody I definitely want to ask you about. How important was Bob, not only for you and your career, but also for the company as a whole? Because I really think he's probably the biggest unsung hero of TNA and Impact Wrestling.
Yeah, Bob really doesn't get enough credit for everything he's done for the promotion and even coming up with it. I mean, he helped. He helped create TNA. It was a brainchild of his, and then they got with Jeff Jarrett and they came up with it. And then, Storm and I were there since day one. And Bob was probably our biggest supporter. I think they would have wound up using us, which they did, but they just didn't know what direction they wanted to go or what to do with us. And Bob was one of the guys that, or the guy that said, you got to do something with these guys, take a look at them. And they could really be something big. So, and then over the years, I mean, Bob's, outside of the ring, Bob's become one of my best friends, and he's always been there for us. Whether it's the business or outside of the business. So we're gonna miss him a lot.
Speaking of the creation of TNA and the beginning like that, coming from an OG like yourself, can you tell us? Tell us what it was like in those Wednesday night pay-per-view days. Before there was Impact, before there was TV, there was those Wednesday pay-per-views, which to me, I don't know, there was something about that. I was a diehard WWF fan, and all of a sudden these Wednesday pay-per-views start coming out, and it was something to watch, and it was so different. What was it like in the back those days?
Well, I mean, it was an exciting time because it was a whole new project. We had some star power with us, but there was a lot of new talent too, a lot of fresh faces, and getting an opportunity like that, like you said, we hadn't had a TV deal yet, so it was a whole different kind of concept to do a weekly pay-per-view, but it was affordable. It was $10, which you rent that out. It's kind of like the monthly pay-per-views would come out to be so. But no, it was an exciting time, man. Everybody was on fire. We wanted that thing to grow, and we wanted it to be a success. And we had the right tools and the talent to get it done.
Well, you said there that you guys had such a unique mix of veterans and younger talent. Were any of the veterans, anybody step up to try to be a locker room leader back in those early days and try to help out you young guys?
Well, personally, yeah, I had Curt Henning was a big supporter of me. I mean, he took his time. I would look forward to the talks with him. When we get there and just sit down in the locker room and BS over everything. So he was really big. But yeah, I mean, all this, especially back in the excuse me, in the early days. That's what they were there for. All the star power. They were there to help grow the young talent. I think probably the biggest name that was there to help out was Sting. Sting came in from the beginning and he didn't have to do that. He did everything he could to help put TNA on the map, and having somebody with the star power of Sting was huge.
Well, we can't have you mention a name like Curt Henning there and not get some Curt Henning stories. We're both massive fans. So, do you have any fun Curt Henning stories that you can share?
Oh man, so many.
That won't get you into too much trouble, at least.
Yeah, all stories with Curt there's some form of trouble in there somewhere. I did give you one. We were at the hotel after a show, just kicking back at the bar, drinking, and Abyss was there. And this back in the days, Abyss was a Jack and Coke drinker, and Curt's the one that got me started on Jack, doing shots with him. And so I just started running my mouth about how Abyss said he could drink Curt under the table with Jack. And I just kept digging and digging and digging. And, Abyss is telling me, shut the fuck up. Don't do this. And so Curt took it as a challenge. And one by one, he was going up to the bar, getting shots. And they started doing their shots. And, I don't know how long it was. I'd say a couple hours, every so often they were doing their shots. And by the end of the night, I mean, Abyss, we had to walk him to his room. And Curt was fine. It was like nothing ever happened. Well, come to find out, every time he went to the bar to get these shots, he was drinking iced tea. So that's Curt for you.
And anybody who's, it's one thing to see him on TV. It's another thing to be in a room with him. Chris Parks, he's a big fucking guy, right?
Right. Yeah, he can hold a few.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Sticking with these Wednesday pay-per-views, what are some of your personal favorite memories from around this time? The company trusted in you guys a lot. You were on pretty much every episode of these Wednesday pay-per-views. What are some of your personal favorite memories?
Well, obviously Storm and I were teaming then, and it was just an exciting time to be on TV every single week. And like you said, yeah, we were, I took it I took it with pride that they were putting us on every week, because it meant that they trusted that we were going to go out and have a good match. So, like I said, it was just really exciting, man. I mean, we looked forward to every week and then running the programs. I think our earlier days, we did a lot with the New Church, and we had some really good matches with those guys, and some bloody brawls. But I think that's really what put us on the map. People started taking notice of AMW back then. When they were looking at some veterans like Wolfie D and Brian Lee being able to hang with those guys. So yeah, that's some of my best memories from the early days.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the new shirts there because, you know, I think everybody automatically goes to Triple X and the great rivalry that you had with them. And we'll get there eventually as well. But those matches with the New Days, I think really solidified you guys as, you know, not just you guys were doing a little bit of the comedy with James Storm at the time, but I think that kind of solidified you guys as being more badass characters. And what was it like in there with those guys? And is Wolfie D as crazy as everybody says that he is?
Of course. Yeah, I mean, and I learned a lot from Brian. You know, Brian had been around for a while, so I was really learning from him. And a lot of times Wolfie and Storm had known each other for a long time. So a lot of times we just paired off. I'd go with Brian, and them two go together, and we just kind of had, you know, battle it out. But yeah, I think we really turned some heads with those matches, and, you know, because we were trying to establish our characters, but also, like you said, you know, once we got in the ring, we wanted to show we could go.
Absolutely.
No, both Tyler and I are really big fans of tag team wrestling. And I think there's a certain respect you have to have for tag team wrestling. I mean, it takes something special to be a wrestler to begin with, but to be able to put in the science of tag team wrestling is something that not everybody has. Can you break down the difference between singles wrestling and tag team wrestling? Like, is there a difference to you? Is there a science that you notice, or is it just second hat to you?
I mean, I guess it's second nature now, but yeah, there's definitely a certain art form that goes into the tag teams, and that's something that you know, because Storm and I were old school, so we everything we had learned and been taught, you know, coming up, like watching wrestling in the '80s, the tag teams back then. You know, that when we got put together, you know, we had our sights set on singles runs, and when they put us together, we just, you know, I think at first maybe a little disappointment, but once we knew that was our opportunity to make a go at it, that we tried to apply everything we had learned from all those watching the tag teams of the '80s and early '90s. We just applied what we had learned, and I think that's why we got so much attention at the time, because if you think back at like 2002, when TNA first started, I mean, WWE was the only game in town, and most of their tag teams were just singles guys put together, and there really wasn't an art to it. They were just thrown together, and then 6 weeks later they're feuding. And with us, we really wanted to make a run for it. And so we applied everything we knew. And I think that's really what got people's attention, because we brought tag team wrestling back to where it should be.
Absolutely. Who are some of the teams that you and James went back and kind of studied a little bit to inspire you guys?
I watched both NWA and WWE. So WWE, there was a lot of the Hart Foundation, the Bulldogs, but then the NWA, I really enjoyed the Rock and Roll Express, Midnight Express, the Horsemen with Arn and Tully. So yeah, a lot of those old school type teams, I mean, we really studied them. And you know, if you think about it, I mean, you got 4 guys as opposed to 2 in a match. So, you know, it can give double the star power. I mean, there's so many exciting things you can do in a tag team match that you can't do in a singles match. So, you know, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and there's a legendary team that you guys got to do an angle with in TNA, and that's the Rock and Roll Express. What's your memories of working with those guys?
Oh, it was awesome, and we had actually gotten a chance to work with them ahead of time, so we knew them going in. But then we had a couple matches with them, and it was just a blast to be in there with guys like Ricky and Robert. You know, the legendary status that they had, and they were so cool to work with. And I mean, they were great, man. In fact, I think we wrestled them. It was either a day after or 2 days after Curt's passing, and the finish of the match was a perfect plex on Ricky.
Oh, wow.
And when I had asked him about it, you know, I think he understood that Curt and I were close. So when I brought it up to him, if we could do that for the finish, he had no problem. He was like, absolutely. So that was kind of cool.
Now you can correct me if I'm wrong from an actual standpoint, from a guy who knows, but from a fan, a guy watching it on TV, I got to say, there's no tag team I've ever seen give back to the business the way that the Rock and Roll Express has, especially even in the last 10 years, the way they come up and put over these new teams.
Yeah, man, they're still going.
Yeah, those
guys are crazy. They don't age. I see Ricky out there taking crazy bumps still today.
Right?
Yeah, he's doing Canadian destroyers right now, and Planches, it's crazy. You just see him on AEW putting over Ortiz and Santana, like the very, very classy.
Yeah, that's a great example. I mean, they popped up on there and helped put over some of their teams.
So obviously we cannot talk about America's Most Wanted and not bring up Triple X. You guys had some incredible tag matches, and one that still gets talked about to this day was inside the steel cage. What are some of your memories about that cage match? Could you tell that you guys were in the middle of doing something special as it was going on? And whose idea was it? And what were you thinking watching Elix Skipper walk across, getting ready to hit you with that Hurricane Rana? Because that was crazy.
I remember thinking this is going to hurt. Well, the thing is, people bring up the cage match, and I know they're talking about the six sides of steel, but a lot of people forget that we had the first cage match with them back in the Nashville days, in the Asylum days. We had a cage match with them. So, and that match by far was one of our favorites up until that point, and it got a lot of attention. So when the rematch was coming about, it's really hard to try not to top it, but we knew going into it that was a hard feat to try to top it. But I think we did. We pulled out all the stops. I love that match. I still watch it today. It was a bloodbath for one. But when Elix first brought that up to me, I thought it was just so dangerous that all day I was kind of going against it. And, we talked about it a few different times, but then as the day progressed later on in the day, I went up to him and I said, "Are you sure you can pull this off?" And he had all the confidence in the world. He said, "Absolutely." I said, all right, let's do it. And then if you watch it, it looked like he struggled a little bit to get to the top. And I'm talking to Daniels, and I'm like, "Okay, what are we going to do for plan B?" And next thing I know, though, his legs were around me, and
that brings up a question right there. As a professional, like myself, like I can't fathom it. I'm not a professional. I'm not in there. For a guy who's done this his entire life, what does it take to put that much trust in your life into the hands of somebody else? When he says, "Yeah, I can do it," what makes you think, all right, he can do it, he better not kill me?
Well, like I said, I mean, it took me all day to really come to grips with it. But you're kind of putting the trust into your opponent every time you get in the ring. Mm-hmm. I mean, no matter what you're doing, you got to. There's a certain level of trust you have to, be with your opponent, and you're taking a risk every time you're out there. But the main goal is, you want to have a great wrestling match, but the goal is not to hurt your opponent. And when he was asking me about it, I just thought that just sounded crazy to me. Now he had perfected doing it from the top rope. I don't know if you remember any of those matches, but in the early days he would do a Hurricane Rana from the top rope on the guys. So when he brought this up, it wasn't like it was completely out of left field. I knew he had done that. So but I just thought about it, and I thought about it, and like I said, we wanted to have the best match that we could, and a spectacular feat like that, I guess it was worth the risk. It paid off, man, and we're still talking about it today.
Yeah, and it's not like those cages like the ones you see on TV now in the WWE where they have the platforms on the top. Like this was just a skinny little chain link.
Oh yeah.
and even in your guys' first match, when you guys came off the top rope and hit the death sentence there, the leg drop off the top of the cage as well. Like that's another moment that, like you said, it kind of gets lost after that second match happened.
Yeah, it's not easy to climb that cage and be able to get your balance on top like that. So yeah, it's quite a feat.
Well, let's keep moving on a little bit here, and we're a couple guys based out of Toronto, and you guys got to do some work with one of our hometown people, and Gail Kim. What did Gail Kim bring to the table with you guys?
Oh, she was quite an addition, man. And I'd already made our name as big baby faces. We were loved, and we were getting the attention for some of our matches. Bringing, like I said, then we turned heel with Jeff Jarrett, and we knew we could pull that off. We just get our aggression out and a little bit of a twist on it. But Gail was that piece that was missing. She just fit right in with us. I would have never thought to have a manager or valet come into the ring with us, but she added so much to it and made the matches that much more exciting. And she's honestly probably the best female talent that I've ever not only worked with, but that I've ever seen. She's awesome.
That's awesome. Mike, you got something else you want to ask the Wildcat here?
Yeah, I got to get down to my priorities. I don't want to waste too much of Chris's time here. All right, here's one. If we're bringing in a fan, Chris, or someone who knows very little about TNA and Chris Harris, what is one match you would recommend to any fan that wants to know what Chris Harris is all about?
Wow. I'd say our matches with Triple X, not just the cage matches. Those were great matches to watch. We had some good ones with the Dudley Boys, the New Age Outlaws. They were the James Gang back then. Some star power like that. But we, the New Church, those kind of matches. In singles, though, it was a long time ago, but my singles run with Jeff Jarrett for the NWA title, those were some really good matches. So, aside from the tag team thing, if I was ever looking at, some singles matches that, could give people a pretty good idea what I was all about, that's a great one to look up.
Well, yeah, let's talk about your singles run a little bit here. The breakup with America's Most Wanted. Do you think the timing was right on that? Is that something you and James both kind of wanted to explore as a singles run, or do you think you guys had a little bit more mileage left in the team?
I think we could have gone longer, but it was something that we were cool with because I think we were ready to give it a shot in a singles run. I had a lot of success there early on. And of course, Storm's still doing it today. So, it worked out really, really well. And I think what really got people's attention was the Texas Death Match against each other. Mm-hmm. I think we really opened some eyes with that, and people saw, okay, these guys can go. So, I think America's Most Wanted could have definitely gone on longer, and we could have done more. But maybe the time was right, to kind of explore other options.
And looking back at that feud, from a booking standpoint, do you think that the company got all they could have out of that feud? Because to me, I feel like they could have extended it for a couple more months with the history that you guys had. Starting it off in the cage with the blindfold match was definitely a unique way to start the program.
Yeah, I mean, the blindfold match wasn't, we kind of look back and think of that as a bad idea. But, when you're looking at booking terms, story-wise, with him blinding me with the bottle and that, I mean, it made for a perfect story. I just think nowadays, people aren't as into the whole blindfold thing as they were back in the day. So it just didn't work the same way we wanted it to. But I think we turned it around and gave them exactly what they wanted with the Texas Death Match.
Mike, you got another one?
Now, I don't want to bug you too much about your time in WWE. I know people are probably hounding you about it all the time, but I do want to know about the process getting in. What was it like for you when you were building to go to the WWE?
Well, it was always an option. Every time we were signing contracts, it was always an option. But we were pretty loyal TNA guys, and not real sure what they would do with us if we win. So, and TNA was home. I mean, they took care of us, and everything was really good. But yeah, after we split and did our singles run, and I don't know how long that was, but my contract was coming up, and they hadn't really done anything with me for a long time. I had some matches with Dustin Rhodes, did something with Christian. And then I think I was leading towards some form of story with Kurt Angle, which would have really been cool. But I don't know if that was ever going to happen or what. But then, contract was coming up, and there was interest on the other side. They weren't really doing anything with me. And then what really hurt was the new contract. There was a pay cut, which a lot of people don't realize. And so I was just trying to even out the factors. And I mean, it was something I really thought a lot about. Looking back, of course, maybe I wish I could have worked something out with TNA, but at the time I thought it was the right move, and they seemed to be interested. And, I was willing to give it a shot. I felt confident in my abilities that I could get something done with the right opportunity. So, it just ended. And right away, I think within the next month, I was signed with WWE.
So you mentioned Bob Ryder as being somebody that was one of your supporters in TNA. Who were the supporters in the WWE for you? Who were the guys that were reaching out to you to try to bring you in?
Well, my main contact was Johnny Ace.
Okay.
That's who I talked to, and that was another thing about WWE. Any of the guys that I knew that I had talked to, they were real supportive of me coming over there, and you do really great here, and kind of getting in my head, feeding me that kind of stuff. Well, then when I got there, all that support wasn't there. I mean, everybody was out for themselves. So that was kind of a blow. These people that I felt like they were supporting me, and I had all this going into it, and then when I got there, it was like hey, I'm on my own. There were very few that reached out to help me along. I have to. Matt Hardy was one. He was really cool about it. Jimmy Yang back then. Those guys were really those guys reached out and they were pretty cool. But yeah, for the most part, man, I felt like I was on my own.
What are some of the major differences between the backstage vibes in TNA and Impact compared to your time in the WWE? And did you have any interaction with Vince McMahon at all? What was he like to be around?
I went up and introduced myself, and I bet he didn't even know who the hell I was.
Really? Eh? Wow.
It was just that kind of atmosphere. It's very corporate. The best way I can describe it is they just want to control you. I mean, they treat you like a robot. They just want to program you to fit their needs. And by the time I went over there, I'd been wrestling for 15 years. I mean, so I was kind of had my own thing going on and just wanted to apply it into their company. But TNA just felt more like a home, more like a family. And I feel like, since it was a young company, everybody was really pushing to make it work and to make it, as the best it could possibly be. And with the WWE, it's just, you're just a soldier. You're a soldier in this big corporation.
So a name that you mentioned a little bit before this was Dustin Rhodes, and somebody that you got to be around a lot was his father, Dusty. Do you have any good Dusty stories? Was he helpful to you at all?
Yeah, Dusty was great, man. We had a lot of fun with Dusty. We learned a lot, and it was a pleasure. We got to do a lot of 6-man tags with Dusty and Dustin. So I got close with both of them. And then even when I went over to the WWE, Dusty was he had a lot to do with the training in Tampa. I think he helped a lot with promos and things like that. But I would talk. Yeah, Dusty was one of the guys I would talk to and tried to kind of get the feel for how to fit in. And but he even agreed with me. I remember Dusty telling me, he said, you're just not the same person that you were. And I said, you're right, Dusty, I'm not. Because I just didn't feel like myself. I felt like I was being programmed, and it was just a really the atmosphere just was not a pleasant one.
Yeah, and with with Impact Wrestling now, you take a look at the current roster that they have, and the tag team division is pretty stacked over there. Is there any teams that you see right now, and you're like, man, like I'd like to get in there with those guys?
Oh, if I could go like I used to, man, I'd love to get in with Gallows and Anderson.
Goddamn.
I think we would tear it up.
Take my money right now.
Yeah, AMW versus the Good Brothers. That is money right there.
That's
I don't
right.
give a fuck what year it is. That is money, right?
Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
I am hungover just thinking about that match.
So I've got one more question here, and then I'm going to turn it over to Mike to ask the last couple of questions. What kind of goals do you have for yourself now going forward? We've seen you back on Impact Wrestling. You said that you can't go like you used to go. Do you have any desire to get back in the ring at all? Can we see you pop up in any other promotions, even if it's in a backstage role? Is that something you'd be interested in?
Definitely. I feel like I can contribute the best way I can right now, doing some kind of a backstage role, whether it's agent, producer. Now that I got a taste of being back on TV, yeah, I'd love to maybe do something with Storm if there was anything out there available as far as, being in his corner. Of course, that'd be something that, the company would have to decide. But Storm and I loved the time that we just, reuniting, and, he can still go. So I'd love to be in his corner doing something like that. That would be great. But yeah, my long-term goal, and it would definitely be Impact. I really don't have an interest in anywhere else. I just feel like that's, I'm comfortable there. I know everybody. And I feel like, if I could ever get my foot in the door as far as some kind of a backstage role, I would love to get into that. I think I'd be good at something like that.
What is your current status with Impact Wrestling? Are you working on signing someone with them? Are you with them? Is it just a per deal basis? Yeah,
that was just a one-time thing or two-time, just for an appearance. But like I said, the door's open. If I get the call again, I'd love to keep doing something. It's fresh in everybody's mind, so I think it'd be really good. And like I said, I got a lot of good feedback, so I think the fans would really get into something like that. So that'd be cool. But no, I stay in touch with everybody there. But yeah, it's just a one-off right now, and then we'll see where it goes.
With all the changes over the last several years, especially with Anthem buying the company and with Don and D'Amore taking over, does it still feel like the company you remember? Is it still TNA to you, or does it feel a little bit different when you're there?
I felt good when I was there. I mean, it felt like home. Getting to see a lot of old faces. Chris Sabin was there, Eric Young. Scott D'Amore, of course. But it was really cool getting to see a lot of the guys and then see a lot of young, fresh guys coming up, to carry the company. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to definitely be different. It was certainly different not having fans in there. That was my first experience.
Yeah.
With that. So that was a little different, but, we'll get through that. And, yeah, man, it's just, I love the hunger that everybody has. I mean, everybody still wants it to be the best thing out there. And, it's another alternative for some good wrestling.
Well, before I bring it home, thank you so much for doing this, Chris. I have one last question to ask for you, and we're going to go to a bit of an alternate reality here. We're going to a different universe where this can happen. We're booking America's Most Wanted versus Beer Money. Who's going over, Chris?
Well, it's AMW, of course.
There you go, baby.
I love the line that you and Storm did on TV there, where he's like, we need to get that beer money, and you're like, hey, come on.
Yeah, I thought people would get a kick out of that.
I gotta pop out of that. So before we sign off for you, can you let the people know where they can find you? Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, any of your handles there?
Yeah, man, I got it all right here. Best way to find me is on Twitter at AMW Wildcat. I also have an Instagram at AMW Wildcat Chris Harris. For any bookings or appearances or anything like that, you can contact thelomopro.com. That's the LOMOPRO.com. And then also I have a merch website up, AMW Wildcat merch. No, that's wrong. AMWWildcat.com. There you go.
We'll make sure to be sober enough to send that all in to put that all in the bio when we put the episode
up. Well, Chris, we really appreciate your time, man. Best of luck. Hopefully we can keep seeing you in Impact Wrestling, because like I said, you guys have done a great job. They've done a great job of bringing you back. The world is talking about it. So best of luck to you and everything going forward.
Thanks, man. I hope we can do something.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, guys.